Hello, Asma. I am so honored and delighted to be with you today. And congratulations for coming into the Exceptional Women of Peace Awards process and to really be a star in that process. So, Kent, let's begin our time together by having you tell us your name and your location, meaning where do you live? And also, where do you do your work? And if you have a title and your role, you can tell us that as well.
Yes, thank you so much. It is a blessing to be here and to be a part of anything that deals with peace. I love it. Okay, my name is Chaplain Asma Inge, and my organization is Inge Benevolent Ministries and Muslim Madalisa Shelter. My current location of the organization and the work, it started in was in Baltimore, Maryland. Well, it didn't start there, but I'm sorry, it is where it is. However, in my work for peace takes me nationally and internationally. So you can't just be in one location sometimes when you're trying to do, anything that's having to do with peace. So I go all around, but I had to have, one place where, I actually had the shelter and the office location.
Beautiful. Thank you. So, tell us a little bit about your work and what difference it makes. And if you have a story you could share, we'd love to hear that.
Well, one of the things that I also wanted to say, I know you asked about, and this goes along with my work in terms of defining peace, and that is important because it lets you know why I do what I do. And I know that the books, they all say that peace, is has to do with tranquility. And I love that because that's what it really is about, the obtainment of peace from, free from persecution due to one's nationality, immigration, ethnicity, religious beliefs. All of those things are, what a different person may have for their peace. But what I've used is all of those are the reasons why I do what I do. And um, in terms of my I'm trying to think of my beginnings, to talk about why I did it. It really started as a child. I was from the South, we were very poor, and one of the things that hurt my heart, this is when I was in the ninth grade, is that my grandmother died from a preventable condition. And she's the reason, she was the impetus for why I even wanted to even go to school to be a nurse, because see, she was someone who had no money, no status, no health insurance, anything. And so they treated her in a way as if she didn't matter. She was one of the discards of society. And that's where it all started. And my mother said to me, go to school to be a nurse, because when people are hurting, they don't care what color you are. And that's why I chose to go to nursing school. And from there, I went to Howard University. And in that time frame is where I also, like going through the 60s, I saw the sufferings of people who were part of, whether it was an oppression where it said, no justice, no peace. There was always something that did that. And what I decided to do was to establish a health clinic for individuals like my grandmother. People where they, like, because you think about it, if you're going through all of those changes and you're defining peace, because peace has different paths to lead
Yes.
to the same, come to the same conclusion. So so for my grandmother, you know what, she didn't have that peace of mind knowing that she would have good care. And so established this health clinic in order to take care of people like her. And then something happened. I would take all of the people who had any of those disparities that I talked about that created a problem for them and messed up their equilibrium. And one of the days, and this goes into one of my first story about it, is that they would bring any and everybody to see me. And one day, this gentleman brought his wife for me to take care of her. right? She wanted to have a female health, exam. And so when I wanted to take her to the back, to do a female health, he says, I want to come back with you, with her. And I was like, okay, I thought it was odd, but okay, you can come back. And then, but then when I started setting up, everything for a female health exam, he said, you know what, never mind. I think I'll go sit back out front. And I said to myself, of course you will. And then what happened? And this was the pivotal point in my life. For the first time in this woman's life, she was alone with someone she could trust. And she shared with me that she was a victim of domestic violence. And that's why I tell people I backed into it. And then I saw that here was another example of someone whose peace was not there. And I tried to be able to help her in whatever way that I could. And but I realized that I was just putting a band-aid on the situation. And from there, I established a shelter for victims of domestic violence. And that became my, I won't say claim to fame, but it came why I wanted to be able to do something to make a difference in the lives of those who, being as victims of domestic violence, they had no peace. They had no peace.
Yes, yes. Thank you for that. And then how did that work become international for you?
Okay, well, what why it ended up becoming international is because in the United States and when placement, it's already bad enough that no one really it's like domestic violence is not given a priority. That's the reason why it could be, hidden for years. And see, because like I said, I didn't know anything about um, the whole issue of domestic violence. But what I found was that a lot of women who came from other countries, they had a higher incidence of domestic violence than those who were in this country, because if nothing else, in their country they had, they were considered, less than, they wasn't even
Yes,
real, I won't say human beings, but they had no rights. And so that they would come from their countries and having been so beaten, it was terrible, I mean, it broke my heart, even witnessing that. And something that when I first started this, my ideal was that I can eradicate domestic violence, in the United States. I'm going to eradicate it. And
yes,
because I was like on a mission. But then one day in the shelter that I established, and I lived there myself because I couldn't afford to be able to pay for a shelter and a place for me to stay. One morning, the woman of women, and she was from another country. She called me. She said, "Asma, I was just upstairs." She said, "Asma, it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. I need a Kit Kat. I need a Kit Kat." And I'm thinking maybe she's a diabetic, something. So what ended up happening is that I go to her, and then what I see is her 3-year-old son kicking her, asking for a Kit Kat at 3 o'clock in the morning. And her daughter is observing. And then this was another point in my life where I had tears in my eyes. And I said, I will never be able to eradicate domestic violence because the abusers of tomorrow were already born. This little boy was already trained to be abusive to his mother, and to women in general, and the daughter was being taught to accept it.
yes,
And that was one of the things that hurt my heart. So I had to then make a new direction, which was to be able to at least, continue to help those, who came to me for help. And that's why I made it my ministry. I said, this is the path that I feel that God has placed me on. That for as long as I have breath in me, I'm going to provide some type of peace to these individuals who could find it nowhere else. And something that how I end up would go to, it would be a lot of people from other countries, but then there would be times that someone would ask me to come and speak. And one of the places that I went was in Turkey, to be able to speak and rescue individuals. And especially with all of the wars and going on, I had a large numbers of individuals who were requiring shelter. That if an international refugee organization got them into this country, but they would need to have a place to stay, and I could do that for them.
oh, beautiful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So, in your lifelong work for peace, of what are you most proud?
Well, and I thought about that question. And the thing that I'm actually most proud of is that despite all odds, as my father would say, going uphill both ways, that I was actually able to establish an organization that could provide this type of help, for individuals who were, victims of domestic violence, and people who were victims of human trafficking, people who had no place else to go, all of those things that people were being discriminated against. I could house them, in this house. And if I called it a house of peace, that's what it was intended to be able to do, and to do so without government funding, because you know what, they wouldn't give money to what I was trying to do, because it wasn't a priority without government funding. And actually I survived off of the kindness of strangers, people who give donations. So I did everything that people said, be incorporated, have a 501c3, have this and that. I would do that. But what I discovered is that domestic violence is not necessarily a priority. People are more concerned about um, I don't know, maybe their own personal needs more so than the needs of someone, and that was a victim of domestic violence. So that's what, and I'm still doing it even as a senior, and I will continue to do so until my God takes my breath away, because I have made, that's what I call it, my ministry. Because
Yes,
and I say it's a domestic violence ministry, and then my organization was benevolent ministry, meaning that I do it without asking anything in return from the other people. Because otherwise, you know what? Then you're not doing it from your heart. You're doing it because there's some remuneration, some money that you're going to get. And I call it my ministry because I feel it's a path that God put me on to be able to do this. No, it's not a good, it's not a good financially thing. You don't get any money for it, but you know what, but you get to, but my heart has peace.
yes, yes, beautiful. Thank you. So, what do you want others to know about you and your work for peace?
um I think I'm trying to think about my work. If it was actually, like a platform for doing so, I would say, you know what, please support this effort because
Yeah.
that's the only way that I can continue. And what breaks my heart is that now with so many wars going on, and people are traveling to this country because they, in order to be able to leave from that war torn place, which there's no peace, to come to an environment where there is peace. But the most important thing is for them to have a roof over their heads. And because they have no status, it's like my mother, my grandmother, then no one is going to help them. So that's the reason why. So the only way that I can do this is to be able to have the financial support. And I don't even take a salary, because I know that my taking a salary, well, first of all, my organization couldn't afford me, but I don't take a salary, and I don't have any staff, because it would mean me having to turn away individuals, just because for that infrastructure. And that's what most organizations do. They have their infrastructure. But for me, it's just me and individuals like yourself, who will just have a wonderful heart and say, you know what, I think that she's doing a good job.
Yes. It's just amazing. Thank you so very much, Asma. And we're so grateful for you and your incredible work around the world. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
One thing I want to say to end, and I know if this is the end, one of the things that I wanted to say though is that when you, in terms of my peace, right? Because I had to make peace with the fact that I cannot save. I cannot stop domestic violence. I can't save the world. So I do what I can as long as I have, like I said, breath in me. And how I get to my own personal peace, it's in the eyes of my beautiful grandchildren, because see, they're like new. I have like 2-year-old two-year-old granddaughters. They're twin granddaughters, and and I see them playing and happy, and they don't have any of these problems, any of these troubles, and just being in their company, it's like it gives my heart, a sense of tranquility. Because like I said, I can't control what's happening. I do what I can to help others, and I will continue. But my peace, my personal peace, comes from being around family and loved ones, because they're the only ones that that could truly bring that to you. You cannot depend on the world for that.
Yes, beautiful. Thank you so much.